Today, we need to talk about something that has once again set social media on fire, the legacy conversation surrounding the late Queen Elizabeth II, the royal institution, and the way Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were treated while other scandals were handled very differently. Now, before we dive in, let's be clear about one thing. Discussions about legacy are always emotional. The late Queen Elizabeth II served for over 70 years. For many people in the UK and across the Commonwealth, she symbolised stability. But for others, especially in this new generation, her legacy, and more importantly, the institution she represented, is being re-examined through a modern lens. And when we talk about re-examining the monarchy, we inevitably come back to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Because if there is one couple that exposed the cracks in the royal system, it's them. Let's start with the image circulating online. The photograph shows Queen Elizabeth, Meghan, and Harry standing on a balcony. It captures a moment that once symbolised unity. But what we now know, especially after Harry's memoir Spare and the couple's interviews, is that behind those smiles there were tensions building. Prince Harry has been very clear. He felt unprotected. He felt that false narratives were allowed to grow. He felt that certain members of the family were shielded, while he and Meghan were left exposed. And this is where the public conversation becomes uncomfortable. Because when Harry and Meghan stepped back in 2020, the media narrative was ruthless. They were called ungrateful, opportunistic, divisive. There were daily headlines painting Meghan as difficult, demanding, dramatic. The tone was relentless. Yet when serious allegations surrounded Prince Andrew, the approach from the palace was very different. Now let's stay factual here. Prince Andrew settled a civil case in the United States related to his association with Jeffrey Epstein. He denied wrongdoing, but the settlement was widely reported. The royal household later confirmed that he stepped back from public duties. What struck many observers wasn't just the case itself, it was the contrast. Harry and Meghan left the UK. They pursued financial independence. They spoke about mental health struggles, and the reaction was fury. Meanwhile, when Andrew's scandal broke, the palace response was controlled, cautious, protective. That contrast is what fuels online discussions like the one we're seeing now. And for many Sussex supporters, it reinforces a painful narrative, that Harry and Meghan were not defended the way other family members were. Harry has said in interviews that he asked for help when false stories were circulating. He has spoken about feeling that palace aides sometimes briefed against him and Meghan to protect others. Those are serious claims, and they've never been fully addressed publicly by the palace. The institution chose silence. But silence in moments like that can speak volumes. Now let's talk about legacy. Queen Elizabeth's reign spanned from post-World War II Britain to the digital age. She witnessed the collapse of empire, decolonisation, technological revolution, social change. For decades, she maintained public support through consistency and restraint. However, modern audiences are not the same as audiences in the 1950s. Today, people ask harder questions about wealth, about transparency, about colonial history, about media manipulation, about accountability. Harry and Meghan stepped into that modern era. Meghan, as a biracial American woman entering one of the oldest institutions in the world, represented change. Harry, already deeply affected by the loss of his mother, Princess Diana, and years of media intrusion, was fiercely protective. Together, they challenged the status quo. And that's when everything shifted. The British tabloids didn't just report on Meghan, they dissected her, compared her to Kate Middleton in ways that many found racially coded. praised Kate for actions Meghan was criticised for. Headlines about avocados, baby showers, family estrangement, every detail was magnified. Harry has said this dynamic reminded him of what happened to his mother. And let's not forget, Princess Diana herself spoke about feeling unsupported within the institution. History, it seems, has patterns. When Harry and Meghan did the Oprah interview in 2021, they didn't accuse the Queen personally of racism or cruelty. In fact, Harry was careful to separate his grandmother from the institution. He consistently spoke of his respect for her. That nuance is important, because the issue has never been about personal hatred, it's about systemic protection. It's about who gets defended and who gets sacrificed to maintain stability. After stepping down, Harry and Meghan built their own path in California. They signed deals with Netflix and Spotify. They launched Archewell. They focused on mental health, veterans support, women's empowerment. Critics called it commercializing royalty. Supporters called it reclaiming independence. And here's the key question. Why is financial independence celebrated for some royals but condemned for Harry and Meghan? King Charles spent decades championing organic farming and architecture reform. Prince William runs the Earthshot Prize. Those initiatives receive praise. Harry founded the Invictus Games long before stepping back, a project widely admired for empowering wounded veterans. Yet somehow, when Harry and Meghan pursue projects on their own terms, it's framed as betrayal. That framing didn't happen accidentally. Media ecosystems thrive on heroes and villains. And in the post-Megxit era, the Sussexes were positioned as the villains. But here's what's fascinating. Public opinion globally is more divided than UK tabloids suggest. In the United States, Harry and Meghan maintain strong support. Among younger generations, conversations about institutional accountability resonate. Legacy isn't fixed. It evolves with time. Queen Elizabeth's legacy will likely be debated for decades, not because she was uniquely controversial, but because the world changed around her. And in that changing world, Harry and Meghan became catalysts. They forced conversations about mental health within the royal family. Harry openly discussed therapy. He acknowledged trauma. That's revolutionary in a family known for emotional restraint. They forced conversations about race in British society. Whether one agrees with every claim or not, the fact that it sparked national dialogue is undeniable. They forced conversations about press accountability. Harry's ongoing legal battles against certain tabloids show he's not backing down. That is not the behaviour of someone running from responsibility. That is someone confronting it. Now, let's address the emotional core of this. Harry lost his mother at 12 years old. He walked behind her coffin as the world watched. He grew up in a goldfish bowl of scrutiny. When he says he feared history repeating itself with Meghan, that fear comes from lived experience. That's not rebellion. That's trauma. And Meghan? She left behind a successful acting career. She embraced royal duties fully, from Grenfell kitchen visits to Commonwealth tours. She was articulate, prepared, compassionate. Yet from the start there was hostility. The palace's refusal to aggressively counter false narratives became one of the breaking points. That's what supporters are reacting to when they compare different scandals and responses. It's not about tearing down a legacy. It's about asking, who gets protected? When Andrew stepped back from duties, he retained titles for years. When Harry stepped back, military honours were removed. Symbolism matters. Harry served 2 tours in Afghanistan. The removal of honorary military titles hurt him deeply. He said so. That contrast stings for many veterans who admire his service. Now, as we look at the monarchy under King Charles, the institution faces new pressures: financial scrutiny, Republican movements in Commonwealth countries, generational shifts in loyalty. Harry and Meghan, from California, represent a parallel brand of royalty: humanitarian, celebrity-driven, independent. The institution represents tradition, hierarchy, continuity. Those two models clashed. And in that clash, narratives were weaponized. The post we saw online reflects frustration from supporters who feel the Sussexes were treated unfairly. But here's the bigger picture. The monarchy is bigger than one family feud. It's an institution grappling with modern transparency demands, and Harry and Meghan's story will forever be part of that transformation. History may one day look back and say they accelerated change, not because they intended to destroy anything, but because they refused to stay silent. And silence is what institutions rely on. Whether you agree with every decision they made or not, you cannot deny their courage in speaking openly about mental health, racism, and press harassment. That matters. So when we talk about legacy, let's broaden the lens. Queen Elizabeth's legacy includes stability. Harry and Meghan's legacy may include disruption. Both can exist in the same historical narrative. But one thing is clear: the attempt to paint Harry and Meghan as villains has not erased their influence. If anything, it amplified it. And as public conversations continue about accountability, transparency, fairness, their story will keep resurfacing. Because it speaks to something bigger than royalty. It speaks to power. It speaks to protection. It speaks to who gets heard. And in choosing to tell their side, Harry and Meghan ensured they would be heard whether the institution approved or not. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the Sussexes were treated unfairly? Do you believe the institution protects some members more than others? And how do you think history will judge this era of the monarchy? If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you in the next one.